Hey, how's it going? Ed Lee, Heights of Gaming, and now we'll cover the next part of my interview over here. There's a part, there's a three-part, I guess, maybe even four-part, let's see. But right now we're going on three parts. The first part was covering the application. The second part was the hopefully first half of the interview, and this will hopefully be the last part of the interview. Hopefully it doesn't go on for another video. So the next question I would ask is, what would you do if you got behind schedule with your part of a project? So ideally, I would want the person to stay behind. Think about it mathematically as a manager, right? A lot of people, the most common answer is, I would ask for help. So I could pay you time and a half, or you could go and take up another employee's time or even my time, right? Explain the situation that you need help with, and then use that employee's time. So that means that basically instead of paying 1.5 staff time, I'm paying 2 times staff time. So the costs go up, and it's more than 2 times because you also have to explain the situation. So just from a business standpoint, it's better for you to work overtime than for you to, call up another employee for help. So, a lot of people don't realize that getting help is not the worst thing. That's not a bad thing at all. But, if you need help, you need help, and the job needs to get done, right? I said in the question, you're behind schedule. That means there's a schedule that needs to be attended to. So yeah, you have to attend to that. But you should also be doing the calculations too from a very deep level and from a meta level of the business. Understanding that will get you hired a lot quicker. Okay, next question was, okay, this was hilarious. Sometimes I would have my employees sit in because, like I said before, I didn't really want my employees to stay employees like at a scrub level. Like, I didn't want to have a stock boy and always have them be a stock boy. I wanted them to be managers, hopefully franchise partners, things like that. So they would sometimes sit in interviews, and I'll explain, just like I'm explaining to you, how to interview people and find good earners for the business. Because I would want them to give the interview, so I didn't have to give it, so I could work on other things. So one thing that I would say is, please say the alphabet from beginning to end. You can't assume anything. Some people had wonderful English, wonderful. You would never have suspected that they could not say the alphabet from beginning to end. English was a second language for them, so they really struggled. So a lot of the business is alphabetizing lists, cards. They were straight alphabetized in our sorting mechanism within our organization for our inventory system. It was alphabetical. True, they could use Excel, sort alphabetically, but sometimes they would have to do it by hand, like in a document. And knowing that they're able to do so quickly and efficiently was important for my business. So just don't assume anything, especially when that has a real cost or a real profit difference for your bottom line. Find out. I would ask them to please sort the following cards. That was part of the business. I don't really like dealing with single cards, but I would actually give them a small portion of the task to do and see how they went about doing it. So some people, what they do when they sort the cards, they put everything one by one by one. Other people would put them in, they would subdivide and then re-subdivide those categories. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but if you do it all slow, if you do it without really, if you do it sloppily and make mistakes, that's not good. So I put you in the situation with this small simple task sometimes, where I would do another thing like take this deck of cards and put them in order. I'm going to watch how they went about it. It's a slightly stressful situation, but the exact same situation is going to happen at work. I'm going to say they're going to have something they've never done before. Oh, you know what? Can you reorganize the cards inside this counter? Can you Can you rearrange this stock room? We got to make room for some new inventory that's coming in. That's going to be 5 cubic feet. I need to be able to see them able to adjust to new situations, because new situations arise in business all the time, especially when you're dealing with humans. That means like customer interactions. People are going to throw all kinds of weird questions at you, weird requests that you're going to have to be able to think on your feet. The next question was I would ask them to type the text, type some some lines of text. In my application, I asked them for their typing speed, and now I get to see for real. Are they as advertised, or are they inflating their numbers a little bit? What's their typing accuracy? If they're putting things on the website, accuracy can be huge. If you put a item that's supposed to cost $55 for 55 cents, I'm dealing with a lot of volume. I like to sell at minimum 100, 200 copies of any product. And oh my goodness, the second that you make a mistake, like 55 cents instead of $55, that person tries to buy 100 copies, and that's pretty easy to do with, but then everybody in the world, you have to process like hundreds of refunds, and people start email, they put up reviews saying that your business sucks because you don't honor the price selling for 55 cents or whatever. You might even have a person, try to fight you and go through legal routes and force you to sell them for 55 cents. It could really decimate your business. Think about that. $54.50 times 200. That's a lot of money. 50, let's simplify. Let's take it to $50 times 200. That's 3 zeros. Plus 5 times 2 is 10. That's $10,000. You understand this? $10,000. Precision is important. I have policies in place to recheck those numbers, things like that, but accuracy, yes. Especially when you're dealing with money. You better be accurate, especially when you're dealing with money that can multiply. That's where really the damage or the profits come in. Okay. What makes you succeed? So the answer that I'm looking for is I'm looking for people to be internally motivated, not externally motivated. So external motivation or not as good answers are people who say, oh, I need the right environment. I need a understanding boss. I need something outside of myself to be successful. So you have basically that says you as the employer are responsible for making me successful. You have to do it right. And if you don't do this and this and this, then I'm not going to be successful. Versus someone who's internally driven, someone who says, what makes me successful is my own internal drive. What makes me successful is my commitment to excellence. That means that person just from within themselves, even though they may face a challenge or a non-ideal circumstance, they are going to push to make sure that things go well. The next question is, what do you think are the most profitable activities for this business, and what do you think are the least profitable activities? Without fail, gamers always say, if you are an exception, go ahead, put it in the comments. I will be proud of you. But I never saw an exception to this. They said, oh, I think the most profitable part of your business is having events when a whole bunch of people are in the store. That's not true. I have another video about this titled The Most Common Misconceptions About the Game Store Industry. But, I really wanted to know. And this is an opportunity for me to inform my applicant, about what is profitable in the business, which is actually selling product, not having events. If they did think that events were successful, I'd ask them to be specific why they thought it was successful. And I would ask them before I told them that events were not successful. If they said, oh, there's much people in the store buying stuff, I'd be like, what is this stuff they're buying? And, then if they couldn't answer that clearly, which they very rarely could, once in a while, someone would say something like concessions. And I was like, my eyes would open. I'd say, yes, they see something, because concessions are more profitable than selling the actual product. And, you look at other business models like theaters that use concessions to become profitable. That shows me someone who's management material. They don't have to get it right, but they have to put some kind of thinking behind their answer. So, let someone say, yeah, concessions. And I'm like, ding, I like that answer. That was very rare. Most people just said, oh, I don't know. And the disappointment, I hope, was not evident on my face, but I was disappointed when they said things like that. The next question was, How do you feel about being paid for tasks completed versus salary? Once again, this is the same question as the commission question from earlier. Hopefully by, after this, asking them a series of questions, if they were not truthful before, they will be tired and either give me the right answer, or they will answer the question in a different way that will allow me to get a better insight into their values and why they think the way they do. I'm looking for people that are willing to be paid per tasks completed. Now, personally, I would qualify this answer. It might not be the right for every interviewer. Some people won't like this answer, but I would say I would like to, before I agree to that, I would like to baseline what the average rate of productivity is and see what their pay scale is, and then grade my pay scale to reward myself for, exceeding normal targets. That shows, I think, intelligent thinking on my part, because if they get rewarded for tasks completed but the pay rate is crappy and there's no way to win or make like a decent pay scale, then no, I wouldn't agree to that. So I prefer someone to show that level of clarity of thinking, because that shows me that they're ready to become once again a manager or a partner, and not just stay as an employee. I look for someone with a high ceiling. Okay, the next question would be, why can I trust you with my livelihood? Because that's exactly what I'm doing. You're there representing the company. You, like I said before, you could make mistakes that cost the company $10,000 easily just with one typo. You could say something, Paula Deen, and say, go Paula Deen, and say something absolutely racist, which could destroy the company. Things like that. I need to have some kind of coherent answer why I could trust you. It's a tough question because people can obviously lie about it. But usually when people try to fake the answer, it's obvious. And I want just people to think about it during the interview. Why can I trust that? They should understand what level of responsibility they hold within the organization. A lot of people are visibly taken aback by this question, and I get that, but someone who's not taken aback, I give them props, and someone who can answer the question, they might even understand that the question is something that not everybody else hears, but they're going to be challenged by questions from the customers. So I want to see that they'll be able to handle oddball questions or difficult questions from customers, such as, why can't I use the bathroom? Things like that. The next question is, give me a specific occasion on which you followed a policy with which you did not agree. Like I said before, maybe in the last video, but I'm gonna get to it in this video as well. It might have been on this video. I don't really remember the back that far. But the thing is, sometimes things will happen within your realm or microcosm of the business. Let's say that you're working in the front room that don't make sense to you, such as maybe like the pricing strategy on a particular product might not make sense to you, or a certain policy of not allowing trading within the game might not make sense to you. So honestly, I've been working the business for 5 years, and I've seen the problems that develop from such behaviors, which you may not have. So I need you to trust me in some instances. In other instances, there are going to be policies that affect the macrocosm. So let's say, for example, I might have a deal with other stores, right? I might have agreed to, hey, you know what, you guys take care of the singles, and I'll take care of the sealed product, and we'll, we'll have a reason for both of us to be excelling in each category, and we'll work together to, the customers are going to have stores they want for one thing or the other, and we each need our unique selling proposition. So we understand that the customers are going to, play try to play us against each other, but why don't we work together instead and say, instead of the customers going to the third store, why don't we establish our unique selling proposition firmly between the two of us, and maybe even have a pretend rivalry or go to war or something, and use that as a marketing tool to garner more interest within our businesses and to raise perceived value amongst our customers. Oh, Heights of Gaming is going to war with Miss Lee. She's someone who sells product under the table wholesale to customers direct. Not mad at her. It's just real. Whatever. So maybe I'll have a pretend war with her, oh, I'm mad at her, so I'm going to try to beat her prices now. We'll have an established bottom ceiling. A bottom line that we'll go to on pricing. Anybody can play this game. Customers playing this game, but guess what? Stores are playing the game too. If they're smart, I'm smart. Okay. The next question is, I have some personality quirks that others find off-putting. I don't like small talk at all. So much so that it is unnatural for me to say hi and bye. Do you have any quirks that others might find odd? So this is just, are you normal? And I'm not normal. I'm special. And I don't like small talk at all. And I'll tell you why. It's not just because I'm shy or something like that. I'm definitely not shy. But the thing is that, let's say, for example, let's say that a normal interaction store takes 10 minutes. So that means I can commit, and let's say that each transaction nets me $10. So in that there's 10 minutes in an hour. $10 times 6 is going to be $60 an hour. That's great. Now let's say that I engage in small talk with each customer, and that 10-minute conversation, that 10-minute interaction becomes a 15-minute thing. That's a difference of from 10 minutes to 15 minutes. That's 50%. That means my $60, right? Instead of doing 6 $10 transactions in an hour, I'm only doing 4 $10 transactions in an hour. So now instead of making $60, I'm making $40 an hour. I don't like making $40 an hour. I want to make $60 an hour. So, without, sometimes some people say I'm borderline rude, whatever. I just want to get to the next customer, honestly. I'm going to be, to the business and to the point. You want to talk about how your day's going, or you want me to look at your deck, I'm going to charge you for that. There was a deck consultation fee that I would charge people. I'm not, people say, oh, customers would come and say, oh, since you have nothing better to do, why don't you come and talk to me about this? And I say, guess what? I have something better to do. I'm going to drum up more business. I'm going to work on the newsletter. I'm going to update prices on my website. I'm going to update. There's new product coming in. There's new solicitations coming out from the distributor that I have to update within my computer system. Maybe you're used to other stores where they have employees who have nothing better to do and just going to chill. But guess what? I'm the owner. I'm the manager. And even if I wasn't the owner and the manager, I would be a top-level employee and I'd be earning money for the business at all times. So just because you think that way, I'm sorry. And I wouldn't necessarily always get into this. If the person seemed like they were somewhat intelligent, then I might take the time to explain to them, that this was the reason why. Sometimes people didn't like that and they didn't want to hear it. Oh well, that's why, you keep making $4 an hour, or but you're not going to get in the way of my $60 an hour. There's no way. You gotta be kidding me. So that small talk is, killer. Next, tell me about your favorite supervisor in the past and why you like working for this person. Then your least favorite supervisor and why. Identifying information is not necessary. So people that say, oh, I like my manager because he's so chill. He lets us do whatever we want. That doesn't show me that you're a good employee. That's, actually someone I don't want, because I'm not that type of manager at all. Someone who says, my favorite manager is someone who's clear about what they want, someone who I think was effective, someone who I looked up to, someone who was inspirational, someone who knew what they were doing. That's the type of answer that I want to hear, because that shows that you actually care about the business, you want to do the job, and you want to be able to do the job well. Next question would be, how many sick days have you taken from work in the past year? I want to know if this person's going to be calling out all the time. A lot of times when people call out sick, The manager has to show up. The manager doesn't show up. It's got to be me. I want someone I could rely on. And if you're calling out sick all the time, then see ya. I have some things. The next question is, I have some things that I refuse to do. I do not eat spreads of any kind. Besides doing things that are illegal or immoral, do you have anything that you would refuse to do? This is once again a normal question. Some people have weird answers. They're like, I think Yu-Gi-Oh cards are satanic, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. Well, this is a core aspect of the business, and you've got to do it. So you've got to sell it. So if you have a personal problem with the cards, that's fine, but you're not going to be working for me. Next question is, now, as you saw before, sometimes I like to break up these questions. I'll ask a question earlier in the interview session, and I'll ask a similar question later in the interview session to gauge how the person reacts. This is a math question that also tests their ability to adjust to a difficult situation and test their precision. Because once again, like I said before, a mistake can cost a business lots and lots of money, especially if that mistake is multiplied. So Swiss tournaments, according to the number of participants, will determine how many rounds that tournament should go. So 2 to the first power is 2, right? So that means if there's 2 players in the tournament, that will go 1 round. 2 to the second power, let's say that the power thing is n, right? So 2 to the second power, n equals 2, then that means that the round will go for 2 rounds. So 4, right? If there's 4 people, it's going to go for 2 rounds. 2 to the third power means that there's 8 people in the tournament, and that will go for 3 rounds. 2 to the fourth power is going to be 16. It's going to go for 4 rounds, 32, 64, etc., right? Yeah, so then I ask, if I have a tournament with 10 people, how many rounds should the tournament go? So this, I see the look of confusion and fear on people's faces when I ask this question. A lot of times they have to ask me to repeat the question. That's no problem at all. In fact, I'll repeat the question for you right now, because it's just really that it throws a lot of people off. People that are familiar with tournaments and stuff, they'll be able to answer this question right away, especially tournament organizers. But the average person is going to get completely waxed by this question. So 2 to the first power is 2, n being the power of. So that means if I have 2 people in the tournament, that means it's going to take 1 round. 2 to the second power is 4. That means if I have 4 people, it's going to take 2 rounds. 2 to the third power, right, is 8. And if I have 8 people in the tournament, it's going to take 3 rounds. 2 to the fourth power is 16. And if I have 16 people in the tournament, it's going to take 4 rounds. So the thing is that if I have 10 people in a tournament, how many rounds will it take? So this is a toughie because it's not 8 and it's not 16. So they have to choose a number in between. Not only that, but they have to do math. So because it's a retail environment, there's a lot of, like, let's suppose that I rang up 5 decks, and usually decks on average are $10. So if it allows for quick fact checking, if someone sees, oh, you know what, it's a $50 total sale, it makes sense, right? Then they can fact check and prevent loss. If someone rings it up and it just happened to be $30 because when they rang up the item, it didn't really hit the scanner correctly, and they're ringing through 5 decks and it's only $30, and they're not using math to, if they cannot do the math, that means they cannot catch that mistake, and that's a problem. Also, the fact is that if there's 8 players, right, in the tournament and it only takes 3 rounds, then it makes sense that if there's 10 players, it exceeds the 8 players and should take 4 rounds to successfully complete this tournament. So I need them to be able to really understand that and make that logical leap, because there's going to be customers coming in trying their mumbo jumbo and forcing the counter person to try to make logical leaps, or there's going to be other problems that come up, like from the distributor angle or from supply chain management, like with the delivery system, or our post office, things like that, tracking numbers that they'll never have seen before. So I need to know how they will handle that situation. A lot of times people try to do it in their heads and give me the wrong answer, that's horrible. I would much rather that they ask me for a pen and paper, ask me to repeat the question for a third time. Accuracy is very important in this question. Don't just shout out the wrong answer. Don't do it. Okay? Take your time and get it right. That's what this question is really asking. And I asked a similar question later on. Precision also is very important. This question is not really a precision question, but my next question is. But that occurs later at the very end of the interview. From previous experience, I ask employees to turn in cell phones while they're at work. If someone needs to contact you, they can call you here at work. Will that be a problem? That's just to let employees and applicants know that. Think about it if you were employing someone, right, to wash your dishes, for example, right? You said, look, I'm tired of washing my dishes, so I'm going to hire someone for, $10 an hour to just come in and wash my dishes. I can't be doing this anymore. I got other things I got to do. And then they come in, and then while they're supposed to be washing dishes, they're on their cell phone and they expect you to pay you for that time. You're not going to be happy about that, right? Well, when people are working for me and they're on their cell phones, I'm not happy about it. I understand sometimes, they're there for extended amount of time and they got to take a couple calls here or there. But, if it starts to become excessive, I will take the phone away. I don't want to take the phone away, and either I'll get rid of you or I'll try to ask you to create a situation for yourself like, oh, when you come in, can you please place your phone in this drawer or turn your phone off? I'm not here to be your babysitter. I'm here to make money, make you money, make myself money, and go home happy. So anything that's interfering with that ability, it's got to go. So if someone hears the answer and they decide they don't want to work for me, I'd rather that they come to that decision on their own versus, me having to discipline them. I don't like being disciplinarian. The next question is tough situational question. I think these are important to throw at your potential employees. Like before I said, I asked the employee to sort some cards so I can get an idea of how they work in a sample task that they would be required to perform when on the job. Here's a situational question. Listen carefully because this is a tough question. You are at a store to pick up a used video game. When you are there, you see someone about to trade in the same game, but they don't feel that they will receive enough from the store, so they walk out. What do you do? Okay, so some answers that people say are they're thinking so much in the interview and making me happy that they don't realize that this is a question to see what they will do for their own interests, right? They're not buying this game for the store. They're buying the game for themselves. And they see someone else and trading in a game. So obviously they have an opportunity to something called cut the counter. Right? This person is leaving. They can hustle out and say, obviously the store is going to try to make their markup. So they could offer the person, more than the store would offer, but less than they would pay at the store. So that's something that I look for, because someone who can make that kind of a decision is someone who can be trusted with higher level sales negotiations. Most people don't. It's an uncomfortable question because it cuts the store out of the deal and people just have a natural intuition and they understand that it's a little bit of a dangerous topic. But they say the entrepreneurs and business store owners are entrepreneurs, and with risk comes reward. Also, however, that there's a risk too, because if the person's right away and enthusiastically saying, yeah, I'm just gonna go out and get what's good for me, I'm also going to compare it to other questions that I have earlier that's establishing whether the person is a compassionate person, whether this person is an understanding person, whether this person thinks like an owner and not like a customer, because this could be that kind of thinking, especially super enthusiastic, shows more of customer bias, right? Oh, what's in it for me? Oh, and not really thinking of anyone else. The fact that I'm there as a store owner should at least, give them a little bit of pause. If they don't pause and they're just smart enough to really see the whole situation, they're enthusiastic about it, I take that into consideration as well. So I ask them for a little bit of explanation why. What do you do? Once they explain it, I say, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I usually say, oh, that's pretty smart. You're buying the game for yourself. So I have the next question really places them into a uh, behind the counter. So I say, now reverse this situation. You want an employee at the store and the same situation happens. Someone comes in, they want to trade in a game, and you see someone else there that's trying to um, that's interested in the game. You can see that they're looking at the game, and you can or they were asking about you before. This person isn't happy, and they're about to leave the store. You see the person looking behind the person as they leave, and you can see that something could happen right there, where the store could lose a sale. What are you going to do? So this occasion can happen at the store. Some people just blindly follow policy. They're like, oh, well, the store has their buy price and there's nothing I can do. So the person's going to go out and do their thing. That's not the ideal answer. It's an okay answer. It's not really the best answer. I would like someone to take some personal responsibility in this case and try to, either convince the customer who's about to leave. And it's tough because they're anticipating the problem, and the person has not said anything and they're about to leave. So they could just remind the person that's trading in the game, or they could just say something like, well, I could give you more store credit, or something like that. And then they would need to, and it would be ideal in that case if they say, look, I see that there's a real situation developing here. Ed, you're the store owner, you're the store manager. Can I have latitude to make some kind of deals happen? Can I negotiate? Can I, make all the parties happy? Because in the first scenario, what happens is that both parties go home, right, seeing the store as the bad guy. The parties being the two customers involved. The first customer is like, oh, the store is a jerk for not giving me more money, and I can, in the future, I will look for situations to cut the store out. The second person is saying, well, I can save money by exactly this type of situation. So you're really creating a even possible snowball effect where these people will go home and tell all their friends the same thing. This store is whack. They charge too much. You probably hear this about GameStop happening all the time. You want to prevent those situations from happening as much as possible. So you could say, look, some stores have a guarantee policy, or you could say, I want to work with you. Come back later. I think that this price might be, let me recheck the price and get back to you. Maybe I could buy it for a little bit more. Or what were you looking for in the price? These kinds of negotiation tactics. If someone shows exceptional ability in this difficult question, then I will promote them towards a commission job where they can really be fantastic superstars, because it takes someone special to really answer this question in the right way. The next question will be, please put the following words in order of importance: commitment, integrity, and profitability. It was really disturbing that a lot of people put profitability in last place. I'm not mad if integrity comes first, but profitability should not be last. In the end, I have to pay you, and that payment has to come from something, and that something will not be from my pocket, hopefully, where I'm taking a loss. Where you want to get paid at the end of your shift, right? So how am I going to pay if we didn't make any money? If that situation cannot continue for the health of the business. If that situation continues, the business itself will collapse. So, it's not a deal breaker, but trust me, it's not good for profitability to come last. Profitability should come number one or number two. It's a tough question, though. It's not a deal breaker, but just letting you know. Okay, here's the last math question. So if the probability of observing a car in 30 minutes on a highway is 95%, what is the probability of observing a car in 10 minutes, assuming constant default probability? I almost always have to repeat this question, so I'll repeat the question again. If the probability of observing a car in 30 minutes on a highway is 95%, what is the probability of observing a car in 10 minutes, assuming constant default probability? So the best answer is someone who just shows a real comfort with numbers and just intelligence, and they give a precise answer. So 3 into 95 is going to be 31.66666 with a line over it, or 31 2/3%, right? And also an acceptable answer is like 95% divided by 3, or something of that ilk. Of course, the first answer is better because it shows your ability to do arithmetic in your head, so you can show off a little bit. The second answer is mathematically correct. But a very common answer that I got was 30 something, or they would go 32, or with a question mark behind it. I would, once in a while someone would ask for a pen and paper, but a lot of times people would they wouldn't want to ask for the pen and paper for whatever reason, or they wouldn't, really, they would be thrown off because it's a tough question. You're facing an interviewer who just sitting there waiting for an answer, just looking at you. But it's important to get it right, because you will be in that situation when you're in the store. People will be saying, hey, how much did that cost? Looking at you, and you have to come up with the right answer. Or, what am I at right now? What's the total? I bought this card, that card, and that card, and this box, and this deck. What do you think I'm at about right now? What's the ruling on this card? It's going to happen all the time. People are looking for you to provide leadership, and you better be right, because if you say the wrong thing, people will hold you to it, and they'll be dying, especially if it's in their interest, right? They'll correct you when you're wrong when it affects them, but if they'll be quiet if they can benefit from it. You better believe that. So take your time for questions like this. Get a pen and paper. Ask them what you got to do. Get the answer correct. That's number one. If you need to write it down, you have to repeat the question. Do it. Don't just blurt out wrong answers. That's the worst thing you can do. Or just say, I can't do it. That's really the worst. But, blurting out wrong answer is second worst, maybe even worse, because it's better for the person to, at least they tried, right, when they got it wrong. So at least they're willing to do it. But like I said before, mistakes, especially in retail, especially when you're dealing with online sales, or even all day, you could sell an item all day. Oh, I'm selling this $50 item for 55 cents, and you do it all day, and they tell all their friends, and all of a sudden people start pouring it. Wow, this item's selling really good. Yeah, you just lost the business hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Yeah, it's really dangerous. Last question would be like salary requirement, and if there's anything else that you would like to ask at this time. If people in the salary requirement question, people, a lot of online sites teach that it's like a war. You should be fighting, and whoever says the number first loses. I don't really believe that. You can say a number, but you should have a reason to back it up. So people would just yell out weird numbers. If you say like a number with no reason, yeah, you lose, especially if that number is too low. So if you're just like, oh, minimum wage, I'm willing to work for anything, that's not, okay, then you'll get minimum wage, obviously. But if you say, look, this is what the average of what store employees are paid for this type of line of work, and I understand that I'm maybe new to the industry, so I would make on the lower scale of that. But if I start to really catch up, I want, these are the industry norms for productivity in this kind of line. Or you've been working in the industry for a while, I really want to be one of your top earners, so I'm going to be demonstrating that I am significantly better than the rest of the pack, and I really want to raise to the elite levels within the industry as in terms of pay scale, and I will do the work necessary to make that happen, and I will guarantee you positive return on investment. No employer would really, in his right mind, would say no to that. That sounds like an ideal answer to me. That's the answer that I would really like. It's very rare to get to get something like, well, actually, for salary requirement, I don't think it's that rare, because it can happen in other industries. But usually, the people that I was interviewing were high school kids, or early college, and they just didn't have enough experience with negotiations to really make that kind of a bargaining tactic. The last question is there anything else you would like to ask at this time? I pretty much asked everything I needed to really, I feel, get a gauge of where that person was. So Some people felt a need to ask unnecessary questions because they felt like it was what they were supposed to do. Don't ask questions that don't really show a real interest in the job or don't really show thought. If you ask like a canned question that comes from, how to interview, it's gonna show up. Like you're like, but if you ask questions that really show that you want to work, like, oh, when can I start? Or what days do you need people? What jobs do you need done? Or what aspects of the business are struggling, so I can help you shore up those wherever the business is weak. Those are good questions. Bad questions would be something like, oh, so why don't you tell me about yourself? Small talk. I don't want to talk about myself. I want to make money. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a good one.